Hey everyone, welcome back into the Fruit Farm. My name is Fruities, and today we're going to be doing a card review for the Two of Swords. Alright, so then for the Two of Swords, with all the card reviews that we do, we usually like to go through each of the individual card works that we have from different tarot decks just to kind of get a first impressions as well as any intuitiveness that we get from the cards before we dive into any book reading about, oh, this card means this. So first impressions, just going through my own thoughts. We have here for the Two of Swords this is from our Dark Mansions deck, and for this one I really love this little perspective that we're having. We see a woman in the night where we have the stars in the back. We see that she's being blindfolded, so she's not really able to see what is happening in front of her, and there are two swords that are crossed with one another. So to me this comes across like maybe this is a decision that has to be made. Perhaps not all the information is available to us because we are blinded. It reminds me a little bit of Justice, but instead of having scales to kind of weigh things out, perhaps this has to do a little bit more with maybe having limited information. So this is really interesting to see how we're being portrayed, especially because it gives us the illusion, not just from the dark, but also from the blindfold, that perhaps we don't have everything that we need to make great decisions. Then we have here from our mystical manga tarot, we have here this Two of Swords in a very similar fashion with our card here. Perhaps you cannot see this very well, but this card, we have the man who has his eyes closed, so he's not able to tell anything, as well as we have this in the back where it's supposed to be either a really cloudy day or it's supposed to be more of a night where the clouds are covering over the moon, so that there is not a lot of light. And then we see that same resemblance with the two swords, where he's crossing his arms as he's holding the swords. So it still gives me that same impression of maybe having limited information to what we have here going on. And with our Crystal Visions Tarot, we see something that's very similar here as well. Blindfolded with a dark sky that is being covered by clouds with very, very little light going on. We see this woman that is holding the two swords crossed from each other. But then we also have an additional of these two additional crows that we have here on the side, which could resemble some sort of either bad omen or some sort of bad news, because I know crow's symbolism can be tied into bad news or bad omens, as well as perhaps death, depending on who you ask. These are the impressions that we're getting from this. So then for the Two of Swords, we have here another depiction. This is from our Mucho Tarot, where we have here a woman that's just kind of sitting down. Her eyes are closed, arms crossed, so perhaps she doesn't want to get hurt, with the swords holding over herself, as well as a moonlight that we have going on here, so it represents that this is darkness. We're seeing the same symbolisms repeat themselves over and over again. So then for what we have here in regards to keywords for this card is, we have here keywords: reliance on logic, insufficient data, denial, feeling conflicted, distracting emotions. So for the card, now we have this. Many cards in tarot encourages us to rely on our intuition, but here we are advised against that. She turns her back to the sea and the moon, symbols of intuition. Her blindfold indicates that the time of searching for more information is past. The decision will have to be made based on what you already know, your logic, your ideals, and values. This is not always a comfortable position, and you might be tempted to procrastinate, but those swords won't get any lighter. I find this very interesting on how we are seeing the symbolisms of intuition through the moon that we have here, and as well as the water or the sea, which is something I did not notice initially. Which is what we have here is that we have this sea that the person is standing on. Also, as well as here, this person has water in the back. And as well as this person, you know, even though this is not water, but this does have more of a snow feel to it, which snow turns into water. So we still have the same symbolisms repeating themselves. So for the symbolism that we have here, it says truce. It says the Two of Swords almost always shows two crossed swords. In older traditions, this represented a truce, not necessarily peace or reconciliation, but a ceasefire. In this case, we must stop fighting with ourselves and make an uncomfortable truce. We have to make a decision with probably insufficient data and also with the facts that our heart might prefer the other choice. And so for our instant answers, we do have do what you know to be right, even if it's not what you want. It's very informative to what we see here in the terms of the Two of Swords. Also, from what we learned before, is that the twos are also symbols of decision making. So this sounds like decisions have to be based on things that sound very logical, even though we have very limited information. Perhaps it may not be naturally intuitive to us, but at least we're trying to make the best information and the best decisions based on the limited information that we have. So then the question I pass off to you is, if these cards were to show up in your readings where you do cards that can mean certain things in reversed, what would these cards mean to you? Are you uncomfortable making decisions, perhaps procrastination as was mentioned in the book, or perhaps something a little bit deeper? So now we know that this is about the Two of Swords. You know, if you're liking this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, if there's anything insightful that you have found about the Two of Swords, feel free to leave it in the comments, or perhaps any questions that you might have. Also, I am live on Twitch, usually on Sundays, where we do free tarot readings and when we do these card reviews live. So thank you so much for watching, and in the meantime, stay fresh.